Hello, and welcome back for another episode of the Believe in Lions podcast, coming off a victory. Another victory edition for us, and a man who got many victories for the Detroit Lions in his day, sometimes sealing them, sometimes just performing so well throughout the game that he clinched them early. Glover Quin Jr.
What's up, man? What is
Feeling
up?
feeling good. It's going to be a great week because when everything just clicks all Sunday, I think this was the best game from start to finish that the Lions have had, and that just sets you up for a beautiful week.
Oh yeah, just by far their best overall game. Offense, defense, special teams, by far the overall game, best game that they've had all year. And, it culminated with a win. They didn't do a lot of things to hurt themselves offensively. They didn't give up a lot of big plays to hurt themselves defensively. Didn't have a lot of special teams penalties and mistakes to hurt themselves. And they played solid enough. They made, the Giants turn the ball over. And that was ultimately, it was a 3-score win, 2-score win, maybe. Well, I guess 3-score, right? 31-18. That's 11. So I guess it's 2 scores. Yeah, 3 turnovers, 2 or 3 turnovers. That's what it's going to turn into.
It was just the defense was clicking, the offense was clicking, special teams played solid enough too. There was nothing to point your finger at there, even though it didn't stand out. But sometimes it's a good thing when your special teams don't stand out. So, Lions defense, one of the better games they've had. And the reason that the Giants have got to this point, that they are in playoff contention, is because they haven't turned the ball over at all. Daniel Jones, 2 interceptions today. Another one to Aidan Hutchinson. He's making plays. He is getting hot. Football is back, and Bet Online remains your number one source for all your football betting needs this season. You'll find the latest odds, matchup info, player news, and game trends. And as your continued source for all sports wagering info, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, live scores, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events like MLB, MMA, tennis, hockey, boxing, and even golf. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 100% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.
I mean, the good thing about it, I mean, he's catching the ball, right? He's shown that he has the ability to catch the ball, and he's been catching both of his picks. He's caught with his hands, so he trusts his hands. He's got big hands, obviously the D lineman, big guy, but he's catching the ball, so that helps. And those are just plays, those are plays that you make, and they affect the game. They are big time plays, especially getting turnovers. And when you get turnovers in situations where you put your offense in good field position, right? You take the ball away from the other team and you give your team the chance to score on a short field. So it just changes the momentum. And that's what they need from him. So, yeah, you're a D lineman and you feel like getting sacks is the only way you can affect the game, or getting hurries and pressures and tackles for losses. But being able to drop and be athletic enough to drop and catch a ball like that, that's huge for them. And so to do that, and 3 weeks in a row he's caught a pick, he's affected one, and led to a pick six and come back and catch another pick. I mean, that's huge for the defense. And you see these last 3 games for sure, the Lions have had more turnovers in these last 3 games than they had in the first 7 games combined. You know what I'm saying? We've seen Kirby Joseph have a 2-interception game. He comes back, has another game interception today. We've seen Aidan Hutchinson catch 2 picks over these last 3 weeks. We've seen Jeff Okudah catch a pick. We've seen Aidan Hutchinson get on another fumble today. We've seen Jeff Okudah rip out a ball against who that was playing. He ripped the ball out and they tried to get it on the sideline and he
Bears,
missed it. Might have been whoever it was. No, it was a
Dolphins,
home game. The last home game.
Dolphins.
Might have been the Dolphins, right? So we've seen them these last 3 weeks. They've really been, it might have been against the Packers.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Against the Packers. But we've seen these last three home games, these last 3 games period, they've been very much, ball hungry, turnovers, playing opportunistic, and not hurting themselves offensively, and they've gotten 3 wins.
It's really beautiful to see. You mentioned the fumble recovery from Aidan Hutchinson, rips it away from the wide receiver. And what kind of impressed me the most from Aidan today was he is so much better on contain on the rollout than he used to be. Sometimes he still crashes in a bit too hard, but he's got the athleticism and is now taking the angles to cut it off and make sure the QB is not just escaping and still getting a pressure on the run. That's something we didn't see before. And something else on the defensive line was nose tackle Alim McNeil, his best game of the year. First sack of the year. He had 4 QB hits, 3 tackles for loss. When a nose tackle starts affecting the game like that, that's a good thing because he's right at the pivot.
Oh yeah, he did a phenomenal job today, especially on first down, stopping Saquon Barkley. Right, the Lions did a great job of stacking the box, playing man coverage, not really respecting or fearing any of the Giants' wide receivers. Right, so when you don't fear the receivers and you got a talent like Saquon Barkley, we're going to challenge our corners. We're going to challenge our secondary. Hey, you guys are going to have to man up and cover these guys so that we can stop Saquon Barkley. We can't let him get going. We can't let him get a feel for the game. We got to make sure that we stop him. And doesn't matter if we got 8 guys in the box, D lineman, we need you guys to get off the ball and put a stop to the run game. And McNeil was phenomenal doing that, getting off blocks, stopping Saquon before he can get started. And Saquon was a non-factor in the entire game, and that puts more pressure on Daniel Jones. That put more pressure on the wide receivers, and the Lions were able to get the better, of that matchup. And a lot of it has to do with stacking the run and stopping Saquon Barkley. And McNeil did a great job of being a leader in that regard.
1.5 yards per carry from Saquon Barkley, 15 carries, 22 yards, 2 receptions, and only 13 yards. So that's 35 yards on the day from Saquon Barkley. We talked about it, how even if Saquon's not killing him against the run, he's probably going to be very involved in the passing game. And he wasn't. And that really killed the Giants.
Yeah, I didn't really see the Giants try to get him involved in the run game. I mean, in the pass game as much. Really, like I didn't really see them do a lot in the run game. I mean, the pass game to try to get Saquon the ball. They were stopping them. They were stopping them, on first down in the run. And Daniel Jones running the ball was really their best offense. You know what I'm saying? And, yeah, they caught a couple passes, but I felt like you expect that they're going to make some plays, crossing routes. They're playing a lot of man-to-man coverage and things like that. But I didn't really see them do a lot. I didn't really see a lot of screen passes to Saquon Barkley. I didn't see a lot of things where they tried to get him the ball in the pass game. So I don't know what was up with that. But hey, man, for the Lions, great job. Whatever they thought going into the game didn't work, and you guys did a great job of stopping him in the run game and putting pressure on him. And like I said, when you can stop him early in the game, but then your offense can couple that up with points, right? When you go up 17-6, now it takes him out of the game from a run standpoint because we need scores, we need points. And now you become one-dimensional. You're not even really running the ball, so we're not even really respecting that.
And when they went to the pass, Lions secondary was pretty much all around, had solid games, even after losing Jeff Okudah early in the game to a concussion. Get well soon, Jeff. We hope you're back soon. But Will Harris in the slot, he does his best Jeff Okudah impression, leads the team with 8 tackles, forces that fumble that Aidan Hutchinson recovers. And Harris, he's had a long journey to get here. He was drafted as a safety by Bob Quin the year after you retired, and it did not work out at safety. They move him to corner, loses the outside job in training camp, and now kind of seems like he's found a home in the slot, which has been nice to see, and a great game today.
Yeah, I mean, that's very rare that you see that, right? You
Yeah.
very rarely see guys go from safety to corner.
It's usually
A
the
lot of
other
times
way,
you
isn't it?
right, a lot of times you see guys that are corners, so they have coverage ability, they have ball skills, and they are a little physical, right? But they're not, fast enough, quick enough, those type of things to be able to compete consistently at the corner spot. But you can move them to safety. You know, it's very rare that you draft somebody as a safety and say, okay, well, he covers too good as a safety and he don't like to tackle as a safety, so we're going to move him to corner. You know what I'm saying? Like very rarely does that happen where you get drafted as a safety and moved to corner. But this game, the receivers that they were going against, the role that he had to play, he played it perfectly. He's a physical guy. Obviously, he's a safety, so he likes to tackle. You see him hitting guys almost out of bounds sometimes, right? But that's his game, and when it works out, it works out. I don't know if we can feel confident. Hopefully, Jeff Okudah is back. It's tough because it's a short week with the Thanksgiving Day game. It'd be very difficult for him to get cleared. Um, to be able to play on Thanksgiving. So I don't think Will Harris is a guy that you feel confident going out and playing 65 snaps against Stephon Diggs on Thanksgiving Day. But the receivers that they were playing against today, the conditions that they were playing in, being cold, being outside, that fits into his game style. And he was able to be effective today. And like you said, coming up with a big hit, forcing a fumble, and Aidan Hutchinson being Johnny on the spot, getting that ball. That's a huge play.
I didn't even think of that with I'm it's like you always say, you're focused on today, the game today, and we're so focused on that, didn't even put it together. That's a short turnaround for Jeff Okudah to return against the Buffalo Bills. So it might be Harris starting opposite Mike Hughes in those two cornerback sets, or maybe they keep him at slot, hopefully, because that's where he's better at. Jerry Jacobs. Just thinking about this, that's not exciting, but we'll talk about that later as we get to that game. But rest of the secondary, Kirby Joseph, interception, rebounds from a tough game last week. Deshaun Elliott ties with the team high 8 tackles. So I was happy with what we saw. They did give up a lot of yards, though, to rookie Wan'Dale Robinson, 104 yards on 9 catches and a carry. He really impressed me, though. He was kind of jittery, bouncy, electric, just tough to tackle.
Yeah, but those things don't kill you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like him making those plays every now and then, getting 10 yards here, 12 yards there. And then you put a stop to it, or you turn the ball over. Like you look at the score sheet and you see that one guy's a rookie, had 100 yards, but Saquon Barkley had 35 total yards. Kenny Golladay was a non-factor. No, like you say, okay, that's fine, good job, he had a decent day. But you look at that stat sheet and it's like, all right, if he's the one leading the team with 104 yards, we're gonna win a lot of games, and they're
Absolutely.
not going to win a lot of games. So I don't think that's an issue going forward. I don't think they sit there and spend time worrying about that. Like I said, the goal was to go in and stop Saquon Barkley. So yeah, he's gonna have some favorable matchups, and he won a couple of them. Got a little bit in space here and there, but they kept the big plays off of him for the most part, and you shut everybody else down. It's okay if he has 100 yards.
Absolutely. I just wanted to give credit to an impressive looking rookie, but that, as you said, doesn't change the game. You can live with that. Just like the Lions, you look at the stat sheet and Jamaal Williams, again, he averaged under 4 yards per carry, somewhere in the low threes, but 17 carries for 64 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's a first down every time you hand Jamaal Williams. If you give him the ball 4 times, that's a first down and 3 TDs. So Jamaal, he now leads the NFL with 11 touchdowns. This is his 5th multi-touchdown game this season and the first 3 TD game of his career. You saw it in training camp. He was scoring a lot of touchdowns and he was talking to the defense.
Right. I saw it in training camp when I went out there for those 2 days. That's what he was doing. And I left there feeling like, man, if I was on that defense, I would have had to have said, okay, I'm finna have to thud this guy up and hit him in practice, because he's not gonna just run through our defense like that. From a team standpoint, you love the fact that you got a back that takes pride in getting into the end zone when he's inside the 5-yard line. He takes pride in getting that first down when his number is called on 3rd and 1 or 2, right? You love that from a team standpoint, but from a defense, when we're in practice, we can't let a guy run through our defense and score touchdowns. So it would have been a battle in practice, knowing that on Sunday we're going to be on the same team and it's going to work out for the good. But I saw him scoring touchdowns and talking like that in training camp. And so it doesn't surprise me that when he get in the game and he get inside the 5, he smells blood and he gets into the end zone. When it's 3rd and short, 1 or 2, he smells blood and he goes and he gets that first down. So yeah, he only had 17 carries for 63 yards. But when you look at those 63 yards and 17 carries, it's keeping the clock moving. It's getting 3 or 4 down yards here. So that's when you look up and instead of it being 2nd and 9, you got 2nd and 6, right? That's a totally different ball game for the offense because now they only need 2 plays to get 6 yards, right? That's not a lot in their books because you can hand it off to them again and get another 2 or 3 yards. And now you're in 3rd and 3 or 2 or 3 or 2 to 4 as opposed to 3rd and 8 or 9. So that's controlling the game. And I get it. He's going to be leading in touchdowns because he's getting the ball in those situations. And he's probably not going to be considered a top running back because he don't have as many yards. So, Jamaal, we need you to break out in the next 6 weeks and have a couple 150, 200-yard games. That way you can get up over 1,000 and get the credit that you deserve for being a top running back with yards and touchdowns and not just be seen as a, short yardage down back. But nonetheless, the Lions fans appreciate that getting in the end zone, whether it's from the 2-yard line or from the 50-yard line. We want to see points, and you're putting points on the board. So congratulations to you on a big 3-touchdown day.
And really, he probably could have had 4, but instead they put DeAndre Swift on the goal line on that final drive, get him a TD. Only 5 carries, catches all 3 of his targets. So that's only 8 touches for Swift, but 32 yards and a TD. And they really didn't need him to do more. Of course, it would have been nice, but just the way the game panned out, there was no need to force Swift into more touches.
And that's fine with me.
Exactly.
If you can win the game, that gives him another week of I want to say rest, but injury free. So he gets another week to be healthy. He's playing, so he's getting his timing, he's getting his carries, he's getting catches. That just sets up for them to be better down the stretch, right? Because they're using Swift more as a slot wide receiver, kind of. Him and Khalif Raymond are kind of playing the same role. I mean, they're not running as many digs and crossing routes, but I see Swift lining up more as a wide receiver than I see him almost lining up as a running back. And that's fine with me too, right? You can get mismatches and you can use his skill set. So I think if you didn't need to use him to run between the tackles and bang up his shoulders and stuff like that, and you can give him another week, then do that. It's only going to help you down the stretch because right now the Lions are 4 and 6 or 7, whatever they are. And as we know, the NFC picture is a cloudy picture. Any and everybody almost is still in it some way or another, right? So with 6 games left, 7 games left, however many they have left, you just never know.
It's almost like active rehabilitation for DeAndre Swift.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm completely okay with that. Same with DJ Chark. He only had 1 target on the day, and it was an awful target. I texted you, ugh. I was just, and your response was, well, no, it's a good drive because we were talking about the clock management, and it's like, no, that should have been an interception, and that was beyond ugly. But I'm not okay with the throw. I'm okay with DJ Chark not getting force fed.
I mean, honestly, if he would have caught the interception, it would have worked out better.
True.
Because I think that was the drive where he didn't catch the interception. They end up punting from like the 40 and they get a touchback and they got the ball in the 20. Because if he catches the interception, he's probably going to fall right there and he's probably going to touch DJ Chark and he's going to be down at the 4-yard line. It won't look good on Jared Goff's stat sheet, but far as a game go, it would have been better than punting and then, you get the ball to 20. And I don't feel like like I the thing that made it bad was how late he threw the ball.
Yeah.
Right? If he'd have threw the ball on time and gave DJ Chark a chance, I think it would have been better. But when you throw it that late, you give the safety way too much time to get over the top. And he came in and made the play. Luckily for the Lions, he can't catch the ball. But like I said, it probably would have worked out better if he would have caught it because he would have been down at probably the 4-yard line.
The classic arm punt from the quarterback. Final thing to just kind of round up the offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown, only 76 yards, but 10.9 yards per reception, catches 7 of 8 targets. He just moves the chains. And if they needed him to do more, he would have. But again, given the game flow, the situation, he did exactly what they needed him to do. And just tip your hat to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is so special.
Yeah, I mean, I said this earlier in the season on one of the podcasts. I think it was when we were playing the Vikings, I think earlier. And I was like, Amon had that streak going of consecutive games with 8, I think, plus catches or however many it was. And, we played the Vikings. I think that's when the streak got broken, right? And I told him, I was like, well, we don't really want, like, we love the 8 catches. Don't get me wrong, but it's more so about the yards that he's getting when he gets those. We can get him 8 catches for 40 yards and it's not an impact on the game, right? But if he can get 8 catches for 80 yards, 90 yards, now, like you said, he's averaging a first down. So when you look at today, 7 catches for how many yards you said?
76.
76, like you said. So he's averaging a first down every time he touches the ball. So that moves the chains. That keeps the clock going. That keeps the defense on the field. That keeps your offense on the field. That keeps your defense rested, and it keeps their offense off the field. Right. So if their offense is off the field and you don't turn the ball over, it's very difficult for them to score. Right. So I'm more interested in stuff like that. I don't care if he has, like, I think it was last week, he may have only had 4 catches for 55 yards. That's averaging a first down and keeping the chains moving and keeping our offense on the field. So I like that role from Amon-Ra St. Brown. If we need him to do more, of course. But if we can keep the games in situations where we don't need him to go up top and, try to out jump somebody. We just need you to work the middle, give key first downs, and let's just keep the chains moving. And we're going to eventually score points with the play action and how we're calling plays and doing things. So I love that role from him, and he's been relishing in it. He's getting back healthy. You see it. You see the separation in his routes, and Jared Goff feels comfortable with him. And they all just flow beautifully when they just play together with the run game, the play action game, and it's been a beautiful thing.
Giants defense also took a blow early in the game. Lions lose Jeff Okudah. Giants lose cornerback 1, Adoree Jackson, on a punt return. Richie James, the wide receiver, who's kind of their 3rd, 4th, 5th receiver, depending on the week in the matchup. He fumbles too much, so he gets benched as a punt returner, and they put Adoree Jackson back there. What are your thoughts about having the star corner as the punt returner? Is that something that you are okay with situationally, or?
I mean, I feel like this right here, man. You can't play the game afraid of injuries. Injuries are a part of the game. That just is what it is, right? We've seen great Hall of Famers. Deion Sanders they put him back there to return punts, right? Are they putting him in harm's way by getting tackled? Of course, but they're also taking a chance of him being dynamic and changing the game, right? So that's just something that you have to battle with. If your philosophy is like, hey man, we want to be explosive on special teams, right? I can just put somebody back there that's sure-handed, right? To say, hey, we may not ever return a punt. Just catch the ball, and long as the next play is 1st and 10 for the offense, I'm okay with that. Then you get some people that's like, hey man, there's opportunity. We saw the Jets lose a game in the last 15 seconds because they punted the ball and the guy from New England takes it back for a touchdown, right? So you have some coordinators that feel like, hey, there's opportunity for us to be explosive on special teams. So I want guys back there that can make plays for us. And if I have to put a corner back there that's the best at the job, then that's what I do. You take the risk of him getting injured. And today, that's what happened to Adoree Jackson. That's just your philosophy is your philosophy. You hope that you have somebody that's dynamic that can get the job done so you don't have to put him back there. But at the end of the day, injuries are a part of football, and you can't coach the game being afraid of someone getting hurt.
And that's kind of where I stand too, is it's not ideal. Of course, in a perfect world, you would have someone who just returns punts and they are perfect at it. They are dynamic, they are sure-handed, but that's just not reality in the NFL. And so when the wide receiver one goes back to return punts, because Tyreek Hill does it all the time, no one bats an eye. And he is a far bigger star than Adoree Jackson. But because it's a corner this time, that's when everyone kind of freaks out about it. And for me, it's just okay, well, yeah, you took the loss here and he's injured, but you almost lost games because the former guy was fumbling it away. So that's not acceptable.
Right. I mean, I totally agree. And like you said, they put Tyreek Hill back there and they trust, Tyreek Hill's gonna make good decisions. And that could be the difference maker, right? When you're an offensive guy, you run with the ball all the time. You avoid guys trying to tackle you all the time. So you understand when to get out of bounds, when to get down, when to do these things. As a cornerback, you don't really do that all the time. You only get to really run the ball when you catch an interception, you get a turnover, right? So you don't get tackled as much as wide receivers get to do. So Tyreek Hill being back there may have a better feel or understanding of and then you put a cornerback there and he's just kind of not the same. So he takes a hit that maybe he didn't need to take. But at the end of the day, like I say, you can't coach the game being afraid of injuries. I'm trying to win on Sundays. And if unfortunate events happen in the process, that's just part of the game. But I can't just say, all right, I'm not going to put anybody back there. Just punt the ball and wherever it falls, where it falls. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of like, or do you say, hey, Adoree, go back there and catch the ball, but fair catch it every time? But when you need a big play and they punt it and he got 15 yards of running room, but he fair catched it, you're like, oh, you should have returned it and got 15, 20, 30 yards, could have possibly took it back. We needed a big return right there. So I just feel like you got to coach the game how you coach it. If unfortunate events happen, they just happen.
Especially, and this is what I thought your answer would be, especially if you believe, as you and I do, that there are 3 phases of the game and special teams is 1/3 of the game. So, yeah, you can be upset that it was a special teams play. People were upset when Rob Gronkowski broke his forearm on a special teams play blocking for kick, like blocking a field goal or an extra point. But you need those players to do it. You can't just have the third tight end or the fourth, fifth wide receiver, because a lot of time that player rotates throughout the roster. Special teams matter.
They do. Big time. And it might not, they're not going to score you 25 points a game, but when you need that timely stop or you need that timely play, like I said, the Patriots are celebrating right now because of a special teams. Like, imagine if that gets called back for holding and then they lose the game. You know what I'm saying? Just out like special teams when they come into play, they come into play.
And funny enough, just final thing on this special teams talking point. Amon-Ra St. Brown goes back to return punts sometimes too, and he's the wide receiver one. So again, this is something the Lions do, something all teams do when they need it, when they need a play. You'll move players around like the Falcons did today. Cordarrelle Patterson doesn't always return kicks, but when they need a play, he is the best kick returner in NFL history.
And he takes one to the house. You know what I'm saying? You see you see him get tripped up. So that lets you know that he's losing a little step, but he's still fast enough, talented enough, special enough as a returner to take one to the house. And I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. He still continues to do it. And he helped help Atlanta get the big win over Chicago. So
And
It's just incredible when you see guys that just have some guys just have a knack for it. They just got a talent for it. And you got to take that risk because you may put him back there and he may go 10, 15, 20 returns without taking one to the house. And then all of a sudden they break one. And you're like, that's why you're special. That's why you're back there. So he did a phenomenal job today and helped them get a win.
And we're also pretty happy to see the Bears lose. They fall to 3-8. Packers, we know, we talked about it. They lost on Thursday, so they fall to 4-7. Lions, second in the NFC North at 4-6. They jump ahead of the Packers in the standings. And if the Cardinals lose to the 49ers, they also jump ahead of them. Now it's Washington and Atlanta and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are some of the obstacles in the way for the Lions to make the playoffs, but it's possible, especially now the Giants, who had a lead in the playoffs, they take an L. It's wide open.
Yeah, it is. And, like I said, when you look at those Giants games, this is why it's important to win early in the season, right? Because you look at the Lions, you look at the Giants. The Giants already have 7 wins. The Lions only have 4. So they're still 3 games behind the Giants, right? So with only Lions are 4-6, so they only got 7 games left to play, right? So with those 7 games, they have to win, at least 6 out of the 7 to try to get to 10, and hopefully the Giants lose 4 out of 7. So they get stuck. Well, you're right, because they both get to 10, the Lions should win because they got the head-to-head tiebreaker, right? So that means the Giants got to lose 4 out of their last 7, right? That becomes tough. But that's what happens when you win early. The pressure's on the Lions to win, 4 or 5 out of the last 7, and the Giants got to lose 4. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they could go ahead and give Minnesota the division already. Like, they're 8-1.
Yeah.
The Lions are 4 games back, 4.5 game back because they lost the first game. Like, I don't see Minnesota losing 4 games the rest of the season. Just for, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't see that happening. It could, but I don't feel like you just stumble up on 8-1. I mean, you're 8-1 because you're a good football team. Like, you're a good football team. So it's gonna be tough for the Lions, but they are playing well. They're playing better, and that's really what you want to see from a management standpoint. I think week to week, people care about winning. The overall picture, you want to be in the playoffs, but at the end of the day, they're winning the last 3 weeks. Nobody thinks about the prior 7 weeks when they were losing. Nobody's thinking about that. They won last week. They won the week before. They won this week. Like, the Lions are on the roll. Nobody thinks about those times when they were losing. So you wanted to get wins. If you end up in the playoffs, great. But week to week, you just want to focus on getting a win. And the Lions have done that the last 3 weeks.
They have put together 3 in a row. Dan Campbell's second win on the road. Lots to like about that. Some stuff to not so much be happy about. Matthew Stafford, he leaves the Rams game with a concussion, his second concussion potentially in 3 games. We wish Matthew Stafford a speedy recovery. And the Rams fall to 3-7 behind the Saints. Not it's a tough transition point, but the Rams are now 3-7. The Lions would be picking 4th overall with that pick from the Rams. And with Matthew Stafford, multiple concussions, I just want the best for him. This Rams team, though,
I'm gonna be surprised if Stafford goes on IR.
That's what I'm hoping for. And I it's tough to say that because people will think.
I mean, two concussions in 3 weeks. It's not good, and you're out of the playoff race. Your season is done. Cooper Kupp's hurt, so your offense isn't, like I don't see them. Like, he's gonna miss the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
right? I mean, I just think that's just a precautionary thing, right? We saw it with Tua. Yeah, his second concussion wasn't as, bad looking as Tua's, but at the end of the day, it's still two concussions in the last two games you played in, right? So I think just from a public standpoint, he's gonna miss the next week. Like you miss this week and you lose again. Now you go from you're 3-8 right now, right? 3-7 or 3-8. You lose another game. Now you're not gonna get in the playoffs. Like I said, your number one target at wide receiver, Cooper Kupp's out. Odell Beckham's not gonna sign with you guys. Y'all don't have a shot at the playoffs. I just think it's just one of those seasons where you won a Super Bowl last year. You had the Super Bowl hangover. It is a real thing. And you just chalk it up and you wasted, a year of Aaron Donald coming back to play, signing and getting Bobby Wagner and trying to stack a good defense. I just wasted a year. I mean, it sucks, but that's just how it is. But I think Stafford misses the next two games. And, if they don't get a win these next two games, I think they just put him on IR and just shut him down because he's been getting beat up all year. Lack of a protection from the O-line, just been getting hit a lot. And I think you just put him on IR and let him sit out the rest of the year, and hopefully that fire is lit and they come back and have a great offseason and make a run at it next year.
Thank you for putting that so eloquently, because as a Lions commentator, people are going to think, well, you just want him on IR so that the Rams lose. No, I don't care about that. I care more about Matthew Stafford and his health. That is my concern. So I'm glad you put it so well, because just protect the guy. It's a lost season. There's no reason to put anyone's health in jeopardy
Right.
ever, especially in this season. So thank you for putting that so well. Rest of the NFC, though. Eagles almost lose again. And, they've got Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph. They're still learning. And I also think there's a famous quote by Mr. Mike Tyson that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Saturday's been coming out and punching teams in the mouth, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been doing a great job. I think that loss last week for the Eagles was the best thing that could have happened to him, and I think this game right here was another good thing that could happen to him. The chances of you going 17-0 and going 3-0 in the playoffs and winning the Super Bowl is slim to none. Not saying that it can't happen at some point. I feel like it has to happen, but it hasn't happened in a lot of years. So I wouldn't sit here and say it's going to happen right now. So for the Eagles team, you good. You came out, you won 8, 7, 8, 9, 8 games in a row. Cool. Like it's nothing wrong with at this point in the year, going on a 2 or 3 week struggle, right? To where you just regain focus, the pressure, the questions, week in and week out, going undefeated, doing this, doing that, like that becomes a lot. So no, you don't ever want to lose a game, but I'm sure they'd rather lose in week 11 than to lose in week 2 of the playoffs, right? So they lost to the Redskins. The Redskins are playing good right now. Not Redskins. I'm sorry. The Commanders. They lost to those guys. Those guys are playing good right now, but they're still ahead in the East. They get a struggle today, but they found a way to win. That's what good teams end up doing. And, it'll just refocus those guys and they'll be fine. But I think they're glad that they lost. They won't say it, but I think they are glad that they lost to take that pressure off, and now they can just focus on trying to get healthy, playing as good a ball, clinch their division, because their division, the Giants were right there. They lost, took a step back. Cowboys, I don't know what they're doing, but they're playing against the Vikings, so it's going to be a tough win for them on the road. But the Eagles were able to get a win, so that bumps them up to 9-1 right now. So it helps them refocus and will probably help them more down the stretch.
It's just hard to win in the NFL every single week, no matter who the opponent is. You cannot take any win for granted. Buffalo Bills, they put the work in today and they blow out the Browns in our home stadium. I think they are going back to Buffalo tonight and then coming back to Detroit on Wednesday. Interesting.
I mean, it's a short trip.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think, if they were playing, across and, anywhere other than Detroit, I think it would be different. But I mean, I think it's only like a 30-minute flight from Detroit to Buffalo.
Oh.
It's not a long flight at all. So if they got means to be able to get in safely, and because I'm pretty sure they've been working on that, right? Can we get our players in safely? Can we get them home safely? Can we get back and forth to practice safely? All those different things. Um, if they can do that, then I think, yeah, they're gonna go back home. But I think if it would have been an issue where it felt like it's gonna be tough for us to get back in, it's just way too much snow, or our players are gonna struggle trying to get back and forth. It's probably just easier to stay in Detroit. Then they would have done that. But I don't think the traveling played a part in it because it's such a short. Like I used to love flying to Buffalo for the last preseason game when we will play them because it's a short flight. You're gonna be back in no time, and you're gonna be out there in no time. So the travel part of it is pretty easy for those guys.
Yeah, I didn't realize just how short of a flight that was. So, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Buffalo will be back on Wednesday. I will be at that game. Unfortunately, probably won't see Jeff Okuda, which hopefully he heals up soon. By missing the Thursday game, though, that does give him 10 whole days to get fully healthy. So,
Well, I mean, he'll get a lot. He'll get, he'll get this whole week,
mhm.
and then he'll have all the way up until the next week. Um, because he can practice. If he's feeling fine, he'll be able to practice, and then he won't have to see the independent neurologist guy to maybe Friday. So he have plenty of time to get back, to where he sees the independent guy. The Vikings are losing
Ooh.
10-3,
Ooh.
10-3.
How the
Second
turntables.
second quarter. But the Cowboys back us against the wall, right? They lost a game that they should have won last week against Green Bay. So you lose to a team that you should have beat. Now you got to go beat a team that you probably shouldn't beat, and you got to go on the road again. So the Eagles won, the Giants lost. If you get this win, you probably move up to second place because the Giants were going to be 7-3. What else? Yeah, you beat the Giants. The Cowboys beat the Giants. So Cowboys get this win, they'll be 7-3. They'll probably be second in the East. They get the loss right here, they're gonna move down, and you know the Commanders will be even in more striking distance because they get a win today. So they probably have 5 wins now, or 6 maybe. I can't remember exactly what they are. So the Cowboys got to win this game, um, and they're up right now 10-3.
As John Madden once said, the season doesn't start until Thanksgiving. There is a lot of football left, and I am excited to experience all of it with you, Glover.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a fun down the stretch. I mean, we see, I saw something the other day where they were like every team from the East couldn't make the playoffs, right? You had the whole AFC East with the Bills, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins, and you got the whole NFC East, the Giants, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Commanders, right? I saw something that said every team from the East couldn't make the playoffs, although Dallas is not in the East, they're in the freaking West. But it is what it is. They're in the NFC East. So it's gonna be some good games going on down the stretch because those teams are gonna have to play against each other. We're gonna get another Giants Cowboys matchup. We're gonna get another Eagles Cowboys matchup. We're gonna get another Eagles Commanders matchup. I think we're gonna get another Giants Eagles matchup. I think all those teams are gonna play each other. I don't think neither one of those teams have already played each other twice. Right, we're gonna get the same thing. We got the second matchup of the Patriots and the Jets today. We're gonna get another Patriots Dolphins matchup. We're gonna get another Jets Dolphins. Like we're gonna get some good games going on down the stretch. And then you're gonna get those guys that are fighting for those wild card spots, right? You're gonna get those Lions Vikings games that we're gonna have to win, right? You're gonna get some of those games down the stretch. Not Cowboys, but Seahawks and 49ers again, right? Like those games are going to be huge games with big time playoff implications on the line. And so it's going to set up for a great after Thanksgiving season.
It really is, and I cannot wait to experience it with you, Glover. Any final thoughts or pluggables to plug?
Nah, man, just same old, man. Keep plugging. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. It's a great time to watch some football.
It really is. Get together with your family, enjoy yourself. Great time to watch some football. Great time to head over to our sponsors at betonline.ag. And until then, we will see you next time.
Peace.